5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We are now in the cut.
Welcome to the Open Cut podcast.
Yes, this is episode 1, our first true episode. It is Thursday, May 23rd. We had a couple events over the last 2 weekends we haven't talked to you yet about. So this past weekend we saw UFC Fight Night Rochester. RDA beat Kevin Lee. The weekend before that was UFC 237 in Brazil, headlined by Jessica Andrade and Rose Namajunas. Going on at the same time as that UFC 237 card, however, was Bellator 221. We're going to go ahead and start there. The first fight I want to talk about for that card is Jake Hager against TJ Jones. Jake Hager is formerly, or I guess probably still, known as Jack Swagger in the WWE community.
Copyright might be a problem.
But he's had now a couple fights in Bellator. TJ Jones was his opponent for this one. The way he approached it was almost comical. He went there looking like a nobody for the weigh-ins, for the stare downs, and he succeeded. He looked like a fanboy.
Dude, the guy literally is just a farmer. He's a meat farmer that said, if I don't make it in this fight, I'm just going to go back to what I was doing originally. Like, that's not a good promotion. I'm sorry. And then you have a guy from the WWE that's in there. It's comical, man. Like, Bellator was doing good things. Don't go back to doing this. We don't need Frank Shamrock fighting at 55. We also don't need a guy that normally is on a farm weighing in about 275 Arby style.
I don't hate it because, I mean, TJ Jones does have professional fights under his belt. More
Two?
than... Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, they're just trying to build up Jake Hager into someone who can be someone. He doesn't have enough experience. I mean, he has a wrestling background, obviously, but to be in MMA at a high level, which he wants to be, he's a long way away.
Oh, sure.
I mean, this is just a chance for people to see Jake Hager, a chance for him to... I'm going to call him Jack Swagger from now on because I hate saying Jake Hager.
That's easier.
It's a chance for him to improve, work on his skills against a fighter in a real fight competition, but still someone that they fully expected him to win. And it's a payday for TJ Jones and publicity. I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, it is what it is, and I don't have a big problem with it.
I think it's cool for fans to see something different. I just think it's a knock at martial arts because then people go, this is martial arts. If you know nothing about it and you follow it like we do, like you and me, we don't train at all. But we know that these guys are high athletes, high level, do things that most people couldn't think of. And then you have these two guys come in. Now, Hager definitely could be something down the road, like you said. TJ Jones is just a guy that said, I'll sign up to get beat up. I don't care. Now, what do you think about him making a point, Swagger, holding that long submission and happened to get ripped off?
Yeah, I don't know. I heard him talking about it afterwards, and he was saying that the ref made it very, very clear that the ref will end the fight. And so he was saying he was going to keep fighting until the ref ended the fight.
I mean,
I don't know.
The guys had to watch martial arts of any type. When you have a guy tap and then you are told to stop, you just stop. You don't need to make a point and say, I dominated you and I'm going to hold this out to make you suffer. I don't think that's fair. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to think that the moment was pretty big for him. He's still new to the sport, and he was trying to follow the letter of the law that the ref had told him beforehand. I don't know.
Adrenaline probably did a factor too. I don't know. But I don't know. It's kind of a sideshow, freak show to me, but that's just me.
The co-main event on that Bellator card was another fight in their welterweight Grand Prix, and it was Douglas Lima against MVP. This is one I was excited for. It was unfortunate that it was going on the same time as the pay-per-view for UFC. It actually probably would have been better watch than the UFC pay-per-view. But everyone saw this knockout anyways because it was just the flatliner.
I mean, the thing about it is if you watch that back, it looks like he doesn't even touch MVP, but MVP goes right out, and then obviously Lima finished him. But that's the power and the speed, and the MVP looked like his normal self, dicking around, doing the side karate, looking like he might throw anything. Lima did not flinch, and I think that's what happened is he went for the takedown, took that inside leg kick, took his legs out, and Lima just timed it, and it shows the power. I mean, it probably hit him 2 inches on that chin, and he was out.
He hit the button. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
a right spot.
Yeah, he did. It was a glancing blow, which sometimes is worse for your brain.
Yeah.
It'll push you out quicker than a direct hit. But this was, Douglas Lima and Michael Page are both high-level welterweights. This is Michael Page's first loss as a professional.
And he was honored by it because he knows how dangerous Lima is. And he even said after the fight, he goes, I looked up to this guy forever. And then he saw him walking back with all of his posse and just took a picture with him, took a hug, and it was no hard. I mean, that's cool as shit because, like you said, those guys are so high-level that at that point they're like, that could have been either of us. Mm-hmm. Either of us could have been put out. But Lima, man, is just over and over again. Even from the Rory fight, he is so fucking dangerous.
So, yeah, he's going to try. He's going to be looking to get his belt back. He has just now advanced to the final of that welterweight Grand Prix, and he will face the winner of Rory McDonald, who took his belt, and Neiman Gracie. And the winner will be the welterweight champion. So, congratulations to Douglas Lima. Yeah. Good fight. The headline for that card was Patricio Pitbull against Michael Chandler. And Pitbull knocks him out early in the first round. It was like 30 seconds in.
Yeah, it was quick.
So Chandler wasn't knocked clean out. He's complaining a little bit about an early stoppage, but from the clips I've seen, it was an okay stoppage, I thought. Patricio Pitbull now is the featherweight and lightweight champion of Bellator. So good for him. And then he avenged his loss. His brother, Patrick Pitbull, had lost his title to Michael Chandler. So
twice.
He avenged that loss.
He had lost twice to Chandler. And that was the beef on this that I found out is because everybody was talking. They're like, Chandler doesn't talk a lot of shit, and neither is Pitbull. They're just normal guys that they know this is our promotion. That's why I go in. A lot of animosity because Chandler basically said, I own the Pitbull family when he beat his brother twice.
Yeah, he was talking.
Once you talk to family with guys like that, man, that's a different category. But the thing that's crazy to me is it reminded me, and unfortunately reminded me of the TJ Dillashaw because I saw the punch. I know why Chandler was bitching about it because it fucked up his equilibrium, but not to the point to where he was out. But Pitbull got on top of him and could have landed 10 more punches or could have had a situation where he would already been out and had been the same outcome. The problem that I think Chandler had, ref stepped in, and as the ref stepped in, Pitbull threw another shot to the back of the head because the original shot was behind the ear, but it was still legal. He threw another shot that was in the back of the head, and I think Chandler was like, look, I'm still here. I just took a shot in the back of the head, and you're trying to save me. I don't know if he could take consistent damage on the ground. If he did, he's a hell of a son of a bitch, but I think Chandler cannot at all fight that. It's just he went down, he was in a vulnerable position. Even if he got up, he could have been dropped again. And again, same ref that had the situation with Hager in the other night, he's there to stop the fight. He saw Chandler drop. He's saying, okay, you're not in a safe place. You're pretty much out. We're done with it.
Yeah, so those were the three cards we thought were worth talking on that Bellator card.
Bellator had a great promotion. I mean, and
it's unfortunate it was the same night as UFC because it competed against them. And I mean, looking back on it, it was the better card.
Did you look at the numbers on the prelims?
No.
That was the lowest prelims in history for UFC. Now that's prelims, I get it, because 237 obviously had a bunch of big names on, but that was the lowest prelims view, and you got to think about it timing wise. A lot of people were probably looking at that Bellator card. I'm not saying they made an impact. To me, I would never want to make a fight with Chandler for a belt, doing the Grand Prix with Lima going into that. But at the same time, it paid off. I mean, there's plenty of people that obviously watched it.
I hope that's the reason the UFC had a poor turnout. I hope people were watching the Bellator card because these were some good fighters, and they need to have eyes watching them.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that UFC card. UFC 237, same night. This one was going down in Brazil. Featured a lot of Brazilian fighters, and the Brazilian fighters had a rough night.
They struggled at home.
Rough night, and Jessica Andrade really saved the day for him.
Yes, she did.
She came through with a huge win, a pile driver, which is her name in Portuguese, I guess, her nickname. Pile driver, knockout finish over champion Rose Namajunas, and she is the new women's strawweight champion of the UFC.
It's what I said before when we talked about it. I was worried about it. That's a strong, powerful woman. I mean, you look at Andrade's legs. She looks like she could probably squat 230. And Rose went for that earlier with that armbar attempt or just a submission attempt anyway, and was in a slam situation, but basically dropped as she went down. That was a legal drop. That was huge. And, when you got somebody the size of Rose, and, they're in the same weight class, but as far as thickness and, how much Rose has got fat on her, man, that's like throwing a stick down straight in the ground. I mean, that's basically what Andrade did, a full baseball bat in the ground.
Yeah, what do you think? I mean,
No, I think it was completely legal. I think Rose looked terrific in the beginning.
I thought the first round was the best I've ever seen her look outside of, I don't know, she knocked out Joanna. That fight when she knocked out Joanna was great.
Well, the shot was perfect, too.
Yeah.
She landed a lot of shots that were a lot of jabs, and I think she pieced her up a lot, but she kept her distance because she knows how dangerous she is in the clinch. She knows how dangerous she is in the ground, but I think Rose wanted to get those points early because she knows that this might go 5 rounds, so I want to get the points early.
Her movement, her distance, all fantastic. All fantastic.
If anyone looked at that and you cut out that slam, you go, Rose, if she would have stayed that whole fight, it would have been embarrassment because she had already busted her up and got her bloody. And Andrade was doing everything right also. She was just getting tagged more, but that's the thing is, Rose has never fought somebody that can have that power at that weight class. You got to remember, these are girls at 115. These aren't girls at bantam, or these aren't girls at featherweight. To pick another girl up and slam her like that and put her out, that speaks volumes on that there can be girls in that division that don't need to punch. They can just overwhelm you. So I love it. I just think it was the night that Rose played great. One fuck up holding on to that submission. Because Rose has been known for flying arm bars. She's known for great submissions, head kicks that go in the submissions. She played a normal game. She just got fucking spiked on her head, man.
That's what happened.
Shit. I'd be the same way.
She had some comments after the fight that she felt relieved that she lost, that there was a lot of pressure on her when she was champion, and she may not be coming back to fight, which surprised me. She's so young, but if you're thinking about that fighting's not for you, fighting's probably not for you.
Well, I watched her full season when she was on Tough, and I loved her to death, and that's where I kind of fell in love with her style because she got on there and she's like, I like hurting people. She's like, I know it sounds bad, but like I like getting in the cage and hurting people. That sometimes will change, kind of like what Rory said a couple weeks ago, when people were like, what? Like, this is one of the pound-per-pound killers at 170 in the world, and you go and do something like that. But same thing with Rose is, think of what we always say about champions. You get press, more time on where you got to do, obligations. Your face is all over the place. Everybody knows you now. You're the champ. To a girl like that that's just chilled, that wants to cook bread in her kitchen and grow flowers with Pat Barry, who's 43 years old, out in the back taking leg kicks, like, they just want to have a fun life. She's a fighter also, but she's a hell of a fighter. I think that maybe that's good for her mental. Maybe she will figure out now, should I stay or should I not? But my worry is, do you come back because it's all you think you know? And then now we're into a situation we've seen with a lot of fighters where they're fighting because they don't know anything else. Because Rose is young. But what else has Rose done in her life? When she was on Tough, she was like 21, 22.
Oh, yeah, this has been her profession.
I mean, that's not very old in life to all of a sudden decide to want to change profession after you've been doing it probably since you were 16.
Yeah, so I don't know. I hope she fights again. I know
Andrade wants the rematch instantly.
Andrade offered her a fight in Denver. She said she came here,
back.
gave me the chance to take her title in my home city. I'd like to offer her the same opportunity, which I think's badass.
Hell yeah.
But I don't know. I think that Rose probably sits out for a little bit, and maybe Andrade will find another opponent.
I don't think she fights this year.
A Rose again?
Yeah. Because I looked at the Joanna at the time they took to make that, and Rose was the champion and took the belt from her. That took a while to make that fight. When it could have went maybe a little quicker. It's not like they have to turn around and do it in 3 months.
Usually the first time you become a champion, you take a little bit.
Yeah, you take a little bit. And I think the thing that people don't realize is a humble person like Rose, that's somebody that just wants to relax, enjoy life, tell other people, you don't have to be somebody that is looked at that you want to hurt people all the time, do other stuff. She might have said that at one time. She's definitely growing as getting older. And I think that's just how this sport is. I mean, this is a violent sport, man. None of us could get in here and do this and realize the pressure that goes on your shoulder. Plus, you're dealing with your job that you could lose everything in one fight. And look at her. She goes, this was a relief. And she lost her belt. Yeah. So I think that's more impressive than saying, oh, I can't believe I lost. I'm a sore loser. I'm done with the sport. She's more like, thank God, I needed this. Honestly.
That's the other reason I think that she will be back. She's not done fighting is because I think once she realizes that there was this enormous amount of pressure on her. She felt this enormous amount of pressure. And then she feels relieved that it's off. And then she's going to step away from that over 2, 3, 4, 5 months.
I agree.
And realize this is what she wants to do. And she wants to... this is what I think is going to happen. That she'll be back once she's removed from this a little bit.
I totally agree.
So let's say that she doesn't fight for the rest of the year. Who's Jessica Andrade make her first title defense against?
Yeah, there was... The thing that comes up to me is what's going to happen here real shortly with the next fight, because that's what I had down too. As I said with Rose, I think the Tatiana and Nina Anarov fight, if Rose doesn't come in, whoever wins that is obviously next in line. That just has to work that way.
I think so. I think the winner of that gets it before Joanna does.
Yeah, so I don't think Joanna... I think Joanna taking that chance to flyweight was great. I think it looked great for the sport. It looked great for her. She took a chance, especially after losing when she was the scariest woman on the planet in those weight classes. It just makes sense the way that MMA math works, which there is no MMA math, but as far as timing goes... Tatiana and Nina, whoever wins that, they're next. And the nice thing is, right now, it's only May. We're almost into June. They can have that fight that's coming up here recently, and they can have a title defense at the end of the year.
They could.
But you got to give Andrade a little bit of credit, too, to say, hey, I'm now the new champ. Rose took some time off. I can also take some time off. But I think Andrade is a different fighter to where she's like, no, I want to fight all the time. I want to prove that I'm the best. I've been trying to prove that I'm the best. I'm okay fighting in 6 months. I don't need to take a year. That's up to her discretion. So, yeah, it's too black and white. Whoever wins Tatiana versus Nina Astarov, it's done.
I think so. I know Joanna's,
if Rose does not.
Joanna's trying to put stuff out there, trying to get the fight, but I mean, she hasn't fought in the division for a year. Her last fight was a loss. It was in the flyweight division. She did recently beat Jessica Andrade. That was back in
17.
2 years ago. So
yeah, it's been a minute.
May of 2017. So 2 years ago, she handed Jessica Andrade a loss. That fight was fun to watch too.
I'd like actually to go in on that. I think Joanna should actually fight Claudia again if Claudia wins her next fight that's set up. I think Claudia's Ronda Marcos fight, I think that would be a perfect timing. I think Joanna waits and says, I'm going to fight Claudia again. I mean, yeah, they fought a lot, but who else is she going to fight?
Weili Zhang's on the... I'd say that's who I want to see
Well,
fight.
No, I want to see her a lot. I think she's great, but somebody might line her up with something in the meantime. I think she is.
No, she's open right now. At least I don't think she's got a fight scheduled. Weili
But
Zhang.
that's the thing is what we always talk about, and I know it's redundant, is it's all who's available and how quick they want to make a fight. But I think Joanna... Everybody up there she beats, she's right back to there, and then hell, she could fight Rose again.
No, yeah, I think honestly, I think if Joanna fights Weili Zhang and wins, then she would get the next shot for sure. She owned that division.
It's who
for
she wants to sign up
years.
with. Yes.
So yeah, that was it. Capped off the night. It was a huge deal for the fans there. You could really tell. There was a bunch of legendary type fighters on that main card for Brazil. And they all lost, but Jessica Andrade did finish the night on a high note for him. The co-main event was Anderson Silva, and that was probably the most disappointing fight of the year or of the evening. He lasted a few minutes in the first round. He took a leg kick and went down, and that was the end of the fight. TKO by leg kick. So I don't know. He's put out some stuff. Seems like he's really considering retiring.
Yeah. Somebody said during the fight afterwards, they're like, Anderson's always been known to not check leg kicks. And, Cannonier threw a lot of leg kicks inside, and I mean, right on.
Oh, he threw a bunch in that first.
The bone and the inner joint. And I mean, when you got something like that, it's serious. You think of MCL, ACL, every CL that you can think of. And it's amazing, allegedly, what they're saying, that there's no injury. But
I know, to go down like that screaming and then there be no serious injury.
And coming from a guy like Anderson that had his leg snapped in half from his own shot that he landed on Weidman after he had the Weidman knockout before, I think the body is not willing as much as the mind of Anderson. And I think Anderson is figuring that out. And I'm not saying that he's retiring. I know we talk about it. We thought this might have been his retirement fight, win or lose. I think Anderson's thinking, okay, look at the amount of injuries and things that have happened to me with different caliber fighters. All I know is fighting, but do I want to end up being in a wheelchair? Because, I mean, I would hate to see Anderson go out and then have that same leg injury again, or get knocked the fuck out and never be the same at that age, and then the repercussions catch up, and, you know, he's 46, 47 years old, forgetting things or not being able to. I mean, he's in great shape for his age, for what he's done in the sport. I think just take your change right now and leave. You know, that you have not had the success that you've seen in your career. You've done monstrous things. Everybody in the world of MMA knows your name. There's nothing wrong with just going out and saying, this is my time. I'm going to enjoy the sport more in my own country. I'm going to help the people I've already been helping that are still training, that are younger than me. There's no problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at, I spoke earlier, I said it was 2 or 3 minutes in. It was actually, there's only like 15 seconds left in the first round, so it was towards the end of the first round. But I'm looking at Anderson Silva right now at 43. He now has 10 losses on his record, which half of those have been in the last 5 or 6 or 7 fights. So, I mean, this is to me the greatest fighter I've ever seen, and he's not looking that anymore. He is a shell of what he was,
and rightfully so.
He's 43 years old. Yeah. Who's at the top of their game at 43?
Who's at the top of their game at 36?
But you gotta step away. I think. I really hope he seriously considers retiring. I think he'll want to go out on a win.
Yeah, but
I'd watch him fight Vitor again.
Oh,
if the UFC will release him and they can line that fight up again, because I know Vitor still wants to fight.
Let a little TRT.
He signed with some, I'm not sure what division. Maybe he was bare knuckle. He's not with Bellator, but he is signed with
Is he with Ryzen? I thought he was with Ryzen.
He might be with Ryzen now.
But the thing about it is, and not even this is a coincidence, and I know we've been talking about this a lot. I don't compare him at all to a BJ Penn. But this is a BJ Penn situation.
It's
forecasting. It's a forecasting to it,
yeah.
and I do not want to see that, because I do not want to see and have us talk in a year from now going, Anderson Silva's fought 3 times in his last 3 fights. He's either been knocked out, not landed a punch, or had a serious injury, and then we all go, man, a lot of people that are talking about who's this Anderson Silva guy that has no idea about the sport. None of us will ever take away what he did, but I don't want to see someone go out on that limp horse. That's what he's doing right now. He's taking himself not at his prime just to do it.
Yeah.
Take your cards and fold them and say,
that's always kind of been his thing. Is
I got my pot.
I want to challenge myself. I want to see if I can test myself and succeed against this test. But I'm looking at his last 5, 6 fights now. He's got unimpressive win against Nick Diaz, but that was overturned in no contest because they both tested for something. Michael Bisping, so he KO'd Michael Bisping in the end of the first round. Bisping saved by the bell. Bisping goes on to win by decision. He loses to Daniel Cormier by decision, while Daniel Cormier is the champion of the light heavyweight division. And fighting up to light heavyweight.
No business fighting Daniel Cormier.
He just had like tonsil surgery or something, an infection. But went to decision, beats Derek Brunson by decision, but that could have gone either way. Lost to Israel Adesanya by decision, and now this stoppage loss to Jared Cannonier. So I can see in his head where he could say,
I was right there.
I beat Bisping, I beat Diaz, I was coming off surgery against the champion of the light heavyweight division fighting up a class. I beat Derek Brunson. Israel Adesanya's at the top of the division, and I just lost this one to Jared Cannonier. I still got it. They're not falling the right way. I could see how he could see that, but watching him from the outside, that's not the same dude.
No, it isn't, but you got to also remember is we have no idea what goes on the mind of a guy that at one time was the god of this sport for many, like you've always said, and how you feel about him. And at the same time, he was right there to where we could be saying, well, Jesus, He won 5 of those 7 losses that he had. The Weidman, if he didn't snap his leg, probably could have beaten
Weidman. So many in this last 10 or so years, it's probably been less than 10 years, but
it's about 7 years, but there's not been a time to where Anderson has been knocked out flat ass cold on his face out. Even with the fucking around with Weidman when he got clipped there, he got right back up, and yeah, he was wobbling. He was not out cold. There's never been a time where Anderson is in a situation where you're like, Jesus, there's no chin left, there's no skill left, nothing else. He's always there, and that's the thing, is I have no idea how to deal with that.
This was the first fight I thought it looked like that.
Well, okay, that makes sense, because you take that many leg kicks from a guy that big after the road that he's rode his entire life. Hell yeah, I would hope that would happen, and I hate to see it, but is that going to be enough wake-up call to a guy that's all he knows in his life?
Yeah,
I can't speak on that.
This is the first time when I was watching him and I was like, he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have it. So I would be down for him retiring. I think if they're going to have him fight ranked fighters in the middleweight division of the UFC, that's not the way to do it.
No.
There's going to be other fights out there. I wouldn't mind watching him fight against older Brazilians, maybe people he has a past against. Hell, Chael Sonnen again.
Oh, God.
Something like that. Lyoto Machida again.
Yeah.
Vitor Belfort. I'd watch those fights, but if he wants to keep fighting to get to the top of the middleweight division in the UFC, he's not going to be winning fights. And I don't want to be watching him take
fight
those
a
fights.
money fight where it's names that are past names that are, legends or people that he's fought before. Don't bring these new guns in that want to be able to take out exactly what you said. Cannonier wanted to come in and take out a legend. He did. Whether he put him out or he had a leg injury, it's the same difference. It's the same win. So I don't want to see somebody, like we've always said, that had so much and given so much to the sport lose it because he can't get his mind out of when should I quit.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so let's move on to the fight before that.
Perfect.
Another GOAT, Brazilian, the best featherweight of all time, Jose Aldo. This is the worst I've ever seen him look.
Yeah.
He lost to Alex Volkanovski by a unanimous decision. Somehow he acted surprised. His coaches were telling him he was up. I don't know what happened, but I have never seen Jose Aldo look like this. He didn't do anything.
I think
for 5 rounds.
I think Volkanovski did exactly.
Or 3 rounds. I'm sorry, it was only 3 rounds.
Yeah, but he did exactly what he knew he needed to do, and he took his shots. He waited. He took the leg kicks, and he noticed probably right away, like us as fans, is that Aldo was not being his normal self. He was not pressuring. He was not trying to cut him off. He was not trying to land shots or put him in a vulnerable position.
It looked like he was trying to wait to the end of the round every round.
He was waiting to do nothing, which it looked like. And that's easier for me to say.
He was waiting for the kill shot that never came.
Which is fine. It's easy for me to say that, but the problem is when you've watched past fights with Aldo, the old Chad Mendez fights, the Cub Swanson fights where I don't want to go fucking 2 rounds. I want to finish you now. I want to put you out.
Even recently, Renato Moicano, he just poured it on him.
I think that with Renato is I think he's like, this is a young gun that thought he's going to run through this division. I'm going to show him difference. I think he was intimidated by Volkanovski because you got to remember, Volkanovski had almost 100 extra pounds on his body at one point. And it was a rugby player.
Yeah, he's a much bigger dude than he is now.
Huge dude. That guy he knows is tough, determined, and he's already seen what this guy has done in the division. And I don't know if that intimidated him, and something that I thought about, I think having this card in Brazil for a lot of these Brazilians, which we saw,
it was a lot of pressure on them.
It was a ton of pressure for these guys. And not that that's not fair or is fair. I think when you're fighting in your home country like that against top-level guys like these guys are, it puts another factor into, I need to do something crazy, or I need to make a statement, or I need to bring my home country home, because kind of like Rocky IV style, you lose, country's behind you, but they're kind of like, what the fuck, man? You had this in the bag. And I think a lot of people thought that with Silva, Aldo, hell, with Andrade, they definitely did. But think about if Andrade would have finished the night not winning against Rose.
It would have been a bad
That would have been a very bad night for the entire country. So, I mean, like you said earlier, is Andrade winning out the night and putting that extra, stamp when they had none the whole night. But Aldo, I mean, you hit it on the head, man. He finally looked like his age showed up.
He's not that old.
And he's not that old.
No. He's been fighting for a long time.
That's what I'm saying is I don't want to even have to say that, because if this guy was 38 or even 40 Anderson style, I'd be like, okay, this guy has been doing amazing things the last couple of years. Take the Conor away. Everything else is perfect.
This is his first fight he's lost that has not been a title fight, I believe.
Yeah, the Max fights, you don't take away or give them to him. They're title fights against Max Holloway, who was cleaning that division up and has been cleaning that division up and is still the champ. If he's been losing to guys that are top 2, 3, 4, 5, Frankie Edgars, Volkanovskis all the time, you go, okay, Aldo, something's changed. But the thing is us fans turn on. Danny Castillo said it perfect on Twitter the other day. He goes, oh, a guy loses a fight that was a top 2, 3 guy, and you go, oh, it's the camp, or it's USADA, or it's, he's just not got the mindset.
Change something up.
He lost one fight. I'm not saying that about Aldo at all. I just hate to see that in his home country for him to have that, because we all know the Conor fucked him up. He knows the Conor fucked him up. Then he goes into the Max age. And then he comes back.
The blessed era.
Then he comes back with the phenomenal, liver drop shot to Jeremy Stevens. And then comes in and shows Renata that you cannot come into this division and just expect to do whatever you want.
Coming off those back-to-back losses to Max, he rebounded with 2 stoppage victories of his own. Even in those Max losses, he was there. He was doing stuff.
It's just Max.
This was a weird fight. It honestly looks like he had aged 6 years since his last fight. It was a weird fight. I still think that if he wants to continue to compete in the UFC, he's going to be competing at the top of the division.
Oh, 100%.
He'll beat almost everyone, at least for now. I don't know if he wants to. I think he'll probably fight out his contract. He's talked a lot in the last few years about going to boxing. I could see him doing other things. He was a champion for a long time in the featherweight division of the UFC. I think he'd be fine.
If Aldo got into boxing with his name and people in the mixed martial arts and fighting sports knowing that Aldo's in there, they're going to watch a lot of that. He's going to sell a lot of good fights, and he's probably going to be very entertaining if he transitions well. This is a guy that's finished a ton of fights in his life by knees, by head kicks.
He does so much
body
stuff
shots
with Muay Thai, and
it's tough to go, hey man, you got to hit the head about 80% of the time, and yeah, you're great at the body shots, but besides that, you can't do anything below the hips. I mean, Uriah Faber found out that you don't need to get hit above the hips to lose a fight. I mean, it's just, I don't ever want to talk bad about Aldo. I could never imagine what this man went through from where he was known and still is. To Max Holloway to this day says he is still the greatest featherweight of all time, because Max knows he's got enough time to continue to jump that.
Yeah, Max might get there, but he's not there yet.
No. And that's the thing, is you can never take that away from Aldo. It's just, it's unfortunate to see him lose in that style. I think that's the moral of the story here. If he got knocked out, I've been more excited.
It was just the weird waiting and every single round. He didn't.
Maybe he was just too cautious. I'm
not sure.
I think, what did we say before when I talked to you a couple weeks ago? Volkanovski's a different featherweight, because like I said, he was a bigger guy at one time. He's stronger. He attacks you differently. He is not there to do crazy fast stuff or pick you apart. He wants to make sure that you cannot play your game, and I think that's what he did, and I think Aldo had no idea what to do with it. So I think Aldo's going to come back with a good fight. I think he's got a lot of great options that can put him right back to us talking great things about him here soon. So
yeah, I think he could continue to fight and do well. I think the featherweight's the best division for him. I think if he goes up to lightweight, it's going to be tougher. But I'd love to see him continue to fight. I'm not thinking of him in the same boat as I am of Anderson Silva, who's got a decade on him. But he's not at that point where I don't want to watch him fight top-level guys anymore. I do want to watch Aldo fight top-level guys. I was surprised by what I saw in Brazil.
So changing it to, and I wanted to change this into positive here with Volkanovski. Terrific win for him. He's doing exactly what he needs.
That's a huge win. Terrific. He's the first person to ever beat Jose Aldo in a non-championship fight. So that's huge.
And yeah, it wasn't in the craziest fashion, but a win's a win.
It was convincing. He won every round for sure.
Well, and you think about what he's been doing. Everybody in that division, he has made basically look like, okay, I'm a new breed. And that's what kind of interesting.
Top competition.
No, it is. But I think everybody he's fought now, Chad Mendez, with the retirement and everything else, and then Darren Elkins before. I think he just brings a new feel to that division, which we always talk about. We want to see.
17-fight winning streak. He's won all 7 of his fights in the UFC.
Yeah. He's a new name for people to latch on to.
He's definitely earned a title shot.
Well, and I think he does exactly what he should do. You wait for this Frankie Edgar situation to finish with that fight, and then you're right in it.
Yeah, he's not going to get the next title shot, but I think his next fight will be for the title.
And there's no reason to rush it because he's in the perfect position that he's going to get it.
No, actually, the only thing I thought was strange about the announcement that Frankie Edgar was going to be fighting Max Holloway for the title instead of Alex Volkanovski was the timing. Because they announced it like the Monday after Volkanovski just beat Aldo.
Yeah.
Other than that, like if they'd announced it ahead of time, I'd be fine with it. If they would have announced it after they found out that Volkanovski was sick with an infection, I'd have been fine with it.
That's crazy, man.
The fact that they announced it the Monday afterwards was weird to me. It was just like, hey, here's this guy who just proved he should have the next title shot. Let's give it to Frankie.
It's a little bitchy.
But since then, like I said, I didn't have a problem with it to begin with, except for the timing. But since then, I think it makes more and more sense, especially because Volkanovski had that infection, had to stay over in Chile several days while he was in between planes, had to go to the hospital in Chile, ended up staying there for several days before he was able to get home to Australia. I think all that together, I think Max and Frankie fight here at the end of July. They needed a headliner for that card. They didn't have anyone. Max is kind of like the honorary Canadian headliner now. Every time they have a big...
That's very true.
If they have a big pay-per-view in Canada and they don't have a Canadian headliner, then they call Max.
I mean, what better guy to have?
He's the guy to go up there and do it.
It is what it is.
Snowboarding or something.
Could you
go to the Raptors games?
Could you imagine, though, being Volkanovski is you just beat Jose Aldo.
Oh, what a shitty day.
And then you're like, okay, cool. And then you get fucking sick. And then you're like, oh, cool, by the way, you're basically in a third world country. And then, by the way, you don't know, you're thinking you're getting a title shot. And then you find out.
You just earned a title shot, but you're not getting it.
And you're not getting it. Yeah. And then you find out also that I'm deathly ill. And by the way, everything I just did was crushed by this. But he's professional, man. He's going to wait. And... yeah, I mean, Max and Edgar, you got to remember this too. The clout and just background of Edgar.
That's why I don't have a problem with it.
He deserves to have that because here's the deal. I honestly believe this. I think if Edgar loses this, I think Eddie goes out.
He's 37.
I think he takes his rip here, and let's say, God forbid, he does beat Max. God forbid he doesn't. I think regardless, even if he takes the belt, he'll defend once, possibly lose. And then I think regardless, if he loses the Max, I think he's done. His background and the things he's done, very similar to Jose.
I mean, if there's someone in the featherweight division who's trying to make their way up and he finds an interesting fight, I could see him taking it.
He's just not been active enough.
But he gets another title shot and loses it, he's never getting another one.
No, and he's not been active enough for me to show that he wants to fight 3 times a year. Not that he has. He's had injuries. He's had timing with other stuff. Conor coming into that division fucked a lot of things up.
Your opponent falling out and you having to take it. Yeah, I mean, there's...
You had that, and then obviously, when he had the loss, dealing with Brian Ortega, that made him reevaluate. It was the first time he's been finished in his career. I've never been finished in my life. I could not imagine being the caliber of Frankie Edgar and what he's done in the sport to go, oh, I just got knocked out. The Gray Maynard fights over and over again when he came back from a zombie, all of the absolute wars he's been in, you cannot say that guy after a loss like that is going to turn around and say, give me another fight. He took his time, and then you got and saw what he did against Cub. It was the most impressive win in the world.
Downswing too.
And Cub is, and we've talked about that. But Frankie is still in the talks, and his name's there because he's always been there. And I think that this is a perfect way to pass the torch or say, here's your torch, and you walk out on your own Survivor style. And I think it's great because just like several divisions, we have a ton of guys that are moving in and out of different divisions that are new names. So if Frankie leaves, it sucks, but there's a lot of guys that are going to replace him quick. Renata's a perfect example of someone that could be a new Frankie Edgar with a new style.
Yeah, so I think Hanado is fighting Korean Zombie.
I love it.
Up. I like that fight.
I love it. There is nothing. That is a Yair fight without Yair again, to me. I mean, and the thing is I love that the Korean Zombie is wasting no time, like we talked about before, making up for lost time when he had to do his military service duty. Renato, the same thing. He's not worried about the losses that he's had. He's wanting to get right back in there. Fucking go at it. And the dude's young. Why wouldn't he?
So yeah, I do think Volkanovski will get a title shot for his next shot. He'll probably get the winner of Max and Frankie, hopefully before the end of the year. Other fights I just wanted to mention from that card. Little Nog lost to Ryan Spann on the main card. Thiago Alves lost. And that was another fight where he just kind of sat back and didn't do anything. I was
going to say he was another guy that just did not show the tenacity that he normally does. And Thiago goes in and out like that. He'll have fights that he does it and he doesn't and have other fights. And you got to remember, back in 2008, 2009, he was one of the scariest guys in that division for a lot of people. It's just become a timing issue like a lot of things.
Francisco Trinaldo did not get to fight because his opponent had to drop out with weight cut issues.
Kidney stones, man, from dropping that much weight.
And BJ Penn lost again, which didn't surprise us, but sounds like he's going to continue to fight because he thinks he's not getting knocked out, so why not keep fighting? Actually, I think he's like a 500 fighter right now.
No, he is.
In his professional career.
And the thing about it is
has not won in almost 10 years. Just broke a record with 7 consecutive losses in the UFC.
People, the highlight of the night for BJ that they said, Cruz and Felder said, is, man, his cardio looks better tonight. It looks like he's got a lot more in the gas tank. That's all they had to say. They didn't say he's looking like the old BJ or anything else. And Clay really didn't do anything crazy to make BJ look really that bad. That's the worst part. Clay should have picked him apart, and Clay's been in this sport forever. Those guys were the outliers. This is a Brazilian card, and you have BJ Penn, who has retired 14 times and come back, and Clay Guida, who has been around forever, who wants to fight anybody, and that's great. I love that he's that way. He knows nothing else. He's fought some of the toughest guys in the division. He knows he's not going for a title shot ever. This is his job.
Yeah.
Why do this for a card like this?
I think it makes sense to do if you're gonna let BJ Penn fight again. I think this fight makes sense. BJ Penn's not Brazilian, but almost Brazilian.
Hawaiian, close.
Clay Guida is, his name has been around for forever too. I would consider this to be a fight to make if you want to make a fight for these guys. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with BJ Penn still wanting fights made. I guess.
I mean, we can't talk about it any more than we already have. It's just that fight went exactly on that card as we thought. So congratulations to Clay. I'm glad he got another rack under his belt. But yeah, BJ Penn has, I cannot talk to him because I don't know what's going on in his head, and I've never been in that situation. It's not even about the numbers on how many fights you've lost. Why? BJ could have stopped fighting, stayed training, stayed with his gym, stayed with his family, stayed healthy, not took all this damage for no reason. I would godly hope he doesn't need the money. And I would hope also the drugs and all the other stuff hasn't come in to make that. We've not heard about it. And I really hope, I've always looked up to BJ, and I just do not want to see a situation to where, is this guy going to become a smaller Mark Hunt, where he just wants to get his brains beat in until he starts seeing signs of it? I don't want to see it, man. I really don't. But let's get positive.
Anything else you got on that 237 card you want to talk about?
No, that's good. We really covered everything. Congratulations to Andrade. And, I have to give Rose a lot of props for being vulnerable and coming out. And, not the greatest pay-per-view that I've ever seen, starting out with the prelims, but the Andrade ender definitely made big statements. I hate to see Silva with the leg injury. Besides that, the little knockout, I think a lot of us saw. There was nothing shocking on this card, unlike the card that we're going to be talking about shortly.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the Fight Night Rochester card. This was an awesome card.
I love this card.
Much more entertaining to watch than the pay-per-view card in Brazil.
And it was free.
Yeah. Started out with finishes, 5 straight finishes. Third round finish, back to back to start it out. You don't often see that. And then headlined by Rafael dos Anjos and Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee's first fight at welterweight. looked good for the first 2 rounds, and then RDA had his way with him. Kevin Lee got gassed. You could tell in that last round, it was almost like Kevin Lee gave up in the last that last exchange in the fight. Something didn't go his way. He kind of just went to his knees and was slow, and RDA is like, all right, I'll take your back and check you out, and he tapped. Good win for RDA. Doesn't really advance him in the welterweight division, but he doesn't lose any ground.
No.
He's still a top 5 welterweight. Kevin Lee, I'm not sure where he goes from here. Like I said, this was his first fight at welterweight, moving up from lightweight. He was talking all week about how he had to cut 4 pounds or 9 pounds instead of 20-something pounds. But he comes out with a loss, and it looks similar to his losses in lightweight, where it was the same deal, where he was all gung-ho going early, and he gassed himself out, and that's what going up in weight was supposed to solve, and it didn't. So where do you go from here?
Anybody can look great coming out in the first round because they're fresh. These are elite fighters. Kevin Lee is terrific at coming out and attacking you properly, trying to be dangerous. I know I say it all the time. This reminded me a lot of the Tony Ferguson fight. Just what you said is, did a lot of things great, put somebody in somewhat of damage, but the problem is he got gassed. And I'm not saying his gas tank's not good. I think this is where the caliber tiers show up. Tony Ferguson is a cardio machine. He output him, put him in a submission, done. RDA, same situation. Kind of did a lot of good things in the beginning, but then that tank gassed down and RDA was still fresh and waited to go in for the kill, got that sub. Just what we said last time when we had from the liver shot to now at the open cut. Situation is, I don't know what to do for Kevin Lee, because Kevin Lee has all the tools, all the looks. He's young, he's marketable. The UFC wants to do everything to keep him. I think it's a situation where Kevin has to go down and fight somebody way lower and prove a name. I got a great name for him that I know you'd love to see. I'd love to see Vicente Luque come in and have a go at him, because like we always talk about, Vicente Luque's got a ton to gain on that. He's at 15 right now. Kevin Lee just introduced into this weight class. Let's go ahead and see what happens.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I was surprised that they made this fight. I thought Kevin Lee was a ranked lightweight, but to go up to welterweight and fight the number 3rd ranked welterweight, I thought was a stretch.
What did I say to you last podcast with RDA? It's easy money for him. That's a guess by me. RDA obviously showed that he knew that. RDA goes, I'm not getting a title shot right now because we have Cerrone that's climbing up the ladder, getting the fight with Ferguson, and obviously the Conor situation we've talked about a million times in Khabib. Okay, let me put some money in my pocket. By the way, if I beat this guy, I get to show that I'm still a badass man, and Kevin Lee can go back and fight some lower guys. I don't worry about him. And then, by the way, my stock just went up to say, hey, whoever fucking loses after this Cowboy Ferguson, I'll fight them if I need to get to the title. Because I don't think RDA's in a situation to fight for the title shot next, especially fighting a guy from the lightweight. Well, he's fighting a guy from the lightweight. That doesn't help him. I get where it is with what he's doing right now in his own division. Cowboy loses, and let's say Ferguson wins, Ferguson's going to go and try to fight Khabib. Same thing for Cowboy. RDA can bide his time and said, I'll let those guys hash it out, and I'll be right in to fight the second attempt to whoever wins or loses. So let's say Khabib beats whoever comes to fight him, Ferguson or Cowboy. RDA's sitting back, been training, in shape, he's not injured. Okay, I'm going to fight Khabib early 2020. That's not hurting him. He made a lot of money off this Kevin Lee fight, and it's early in the year. He can train the rest of the year. Let this Cowboy Ferguson happen. Let a Khabib versus Ferguson or Cowboy.
He's fighting in welterweight. He's not messing with those lightweights.
I understand that, but he could take time to make that money if he wants to.
Yeah.
So I just don't know what's going to happen for anybody else in the welterweight for RDA.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's good. His recent losses are against Colby and Kamaru, who are fighting each other, hopefully. So he definitely won't get the winner of that. But the one thing that this fight did do for him is that Colby and Kamaru are wrestlers, and now he gets a win against a wrestler. So it's not like he's like, oh, I can't fight wrestlers, or not that he would be like in that mindset, but for people on the outside to see two decision losses the way they went with Colby and Kamaru, going down similarly, to get a win over Kevin Lee, who has that kind of wrestling style, is good for RDA. Like I said, he's not going to get, and you say, he's not going to get the next title shot, but I think if he gets one more win, he probably will get another title shot.
And I know that he's not going to want to drop the lightweight. I'm putting in a situation where RDA's a welterweight now, but like I said, Tyron Woodley's out with a hand injury. Colby and Usman has not been finalized yet. That's a ton of time, and he's already got time in the lightweight, which he's not in. I understand that people are like, why the fuck are you talking about RDA fighting lightweight? Because right now, he doesn't really have anybody to fight in the welterweight after beating Kevin Lee, who just came from lightweight.
They had asked him about if he would go back to lightweight. I don't know who I saw interviewing him, but whoever
That's why I'm bringing it up.
And he said he'd have to change a lot of stuff in his life. He'd need like 3 or 4 months advance notice and money.
Well, that's my point. Yeah. That's what I'm saying is, and I know it doesn't make sense, that's a long time between Ferguson and Cowboy happening here in July to where you're going to have Khabib that has to wait to fight the winner of that, and then you let that happen. Whether Conor comes back or not, I'm not putting Conor in this situation because he's not in it right now. Khabib is the champ. He's going to come back. You let that happen. I don't know if by the time Usman and Colby happen, if they're going to have another title fight in time for him. So I'm giving RDA the benefit that he could switch a division and has enough time, as he's saying, 6 months, to make some more easy money in another weight class. But I get it. If he jumps to another weight class, that could hurt him again because he's doing so well in the welterweight.
Yeah, I mean, he came up and he was just winning, beat Robbie Lawler, former champion, beat Neil Magny. He did lose to Kamaru and Colby, but other than that, he's looked good at welterweight.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he goes down to lightweight, but I mean, if they offer him Khabib, he's going to do it.
Yeah, I'm just going from a money situation for him. I'm just trying to help. I'm just using another set of my mind to think, if you're not going to be able to fight for a title right now, go make some easy money in another weight class. Pettis style.
Yeah, I mean, there's options for him at welterweight. There's still, I mean, there's definitely options. People he hasn't fought. He's still pretty new to the welterweight division. It's just the people who are fighting for the title right now, it doesn't look good for him to get a title shot soon.
The obvious is just wait for Colby and Usman to happen, stay healthy, and then go fight them for the title.
Go find an opponent then. The co-main event, Ian Heinisch.
Yep.
And Antonio Carlos Jr. And Ian Heinisch upset him. He got a decision victory. I think this is good for the middleweight division. I was thinking today about how kind of stale the middleweight division is. We've been keeping track of who's been ranked since we started back in February, I believe.
Yeah. And
the middleweight division has only very recently changed its ranks, where since the beginning of the year, David Branch and Anderson Silva were in the top 15, and they've been since replaced by Ian Heinisch and Jack Hermanson. So other than that, there's been very, very little movement. It seems to be the least active, even behind flyweight division.
God!
And there's no one in flyweight.
There's no one in flyweight.
But when was the last time? Like these are the people who are ranked up top.
Well, yeah.
Yoel, Rockhold, Weidman. We just saw Souza fight. I mean, it's Costa. When was the last time we saw him fight? I mean, the people who are ranked in the top 10. Robert Whittaker's the champion. He hasn't fought since June of 2018.
Which he got fucked with, obviously, with dealing with the hemorrhoids, basically. I mean, it's been bad timing.
The top part of this division, there's been nothing going on. So seeing a new face come in, beat a ranked fighter, get to the top, I'm excited about that. Antonio Carlos Jr. didn't look very impressive, I didn't think.
He did not, and especially from what he's done in the past. He's not been anybody that's done anything absolutely crazy in that division. I mean, he's beaten some guys that are no longer in the UFC. Spice Lee, who has, had a couple decent wins, but, that guy was a skateboarder that learned how to fight. And then Bosch, who's retired. I think for Antonio, that killed him. I think
this fight?
That fight killed him because Ian is, obviously he's a replacement for Neil Magny, who got busted for the USADA, which we still do not have full disclosure about.
Anything about.
And that is what it is. it's beyond huge attempt to go in and fight a guy and be able to make it, let alone you beat him by decision. Okay, that's great. Now you're a new name in the division, and now sky's the limit for you because just what you said, there's not a lot of activity and a lot of switching going on. So they can match him up with anybody around him, whether it's below or above him, and those fights could catapult him to the top real quick because, like you said, nobody up top's doing a lot right now.
Yeah, you can make it to the top of the middleweight division.
You know who
quick.
I'd love to see Ian fight is Brad Tavares. Because Brad Tavares is a different style fighter than what Antonio just fought. Or just fighting Antonio.
It hasn't been a while since we've seen it.
Exactly. It's been a while because the last fight was Israel, which was a loss, which was a decision. Amazingly, Brad didn't get put out on that. But Brad was the favorite in that fight coming in to a lot of people's eyes. Brad's a brawler. I think that would be a fun-ass fight to watch there. And that also let Ian prove himself.
Yeah.
To where if he beats a guy like that, even though he's ranked above Brad, that doesn't mean shit in that division.
No, I mean, he's ranked above him because he just beat Antonio Carlos Jr. I mean,
that no one would expect. Yeah. And by the way, he would have not even had that opportunity if Neil Magny was still in the mix.
Right.
So, and then on the counter end with Antonio, I hate to say it, yes, this is your first loss for your last 4 fights that you've had recently. The problem is it's against a guy that wasn't ranked. So you're probably going to have to go back to the end of the line and fight a guy maybe down around the 15, 16, 17 area to kind of show your worth.
Fine. That's who he's fighting this time. I mean,
no, and you know who I think would be a great fight?
He's not taking a big step back. Like I said, the middleweight division is not super deep, so...
No, I don't think of that. I think he needs a fight that he can win, like Elias Theodore, who just had a super shitty fight against Brunson.
Yeah, now, actually, both of them just had some pretty shitty fights.
They had super shitty fights.
Similar. Yeah.
So I think if Antonio fights him, my problem is that's not a very marketable fight, especially after how Elias just fought against Brunson. But it's also a very even fight. Both guys have similar styles. Maybe it can help both of them. But yeah, I mean, Ian, that was a hell of a capitalization to do that.
Leading up to that fight, Felicia Spencer upset Megan Anderson by submitting her in the first round.
I was so disappointed with this.
She just came in as the Invicta featherweight champion. Megan Anderson's had a few fights in the UFC now. It's tough to get fights in the UFC because there's not any featherweight fighters. She's coming off a loss to Holly Holm. Actually, maybe she's not had a few fights in the UFC. Maybe she only had a couple fights. But yeah, Felicia Spencer is now a contender in the featherweight division, and there's not too many out there. So,
yeah, there has to be.
I mean, they're talking about her going up against Cyborg potentially next. I think this is obviously huge for Felicia Spencer, as provided that the women's featherweight division sticks around.
I think Megan fought Cyborg, or no, Yana fought Cyborg to come into the featherweight.
I think it was Yana Kunitskaya. But this is also very detrimental to Megan Anderson, I think. She had some momentum. I mean, she's coming off that loss, but this is a big loss.
The Cat Zingano is one that the eye poke toe in the eye sucks because I would rather see that fight go longer to see how Megan handled herself. The home fight, she didn't look bad. In that type of division at that weight class, that's tough.
Megan Anderson, that's funny.
Yeah, I know.
My buddy's little sister.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Megan Anderson, even though it looks like Megan Anderson. The problem, though, that I have is it looked too easy for a girl that has been at this caliber in UFC, is one of 5, basically, in that weight class, and had a girl come out of Invicta and do what she did to her. And the thing is Megan was super excited for her at the end. She was like very happy.
She seemed to be happy for her.
She did not care about the loss, and that is huge. I honor that. God, the size of Megan, and I follow her. I like her. I mean,
she makes a legitimate weight cut.
She is a huge weight cut for that. James Krause trains her. She has a great team around her. I just expected more from her size, but when you're fighting an opponent that you've never seen, you don't know much about, and a girl that has nothing to lose and wants to come in and do everything to make a statement, which she did, sometimes that happens. And I don't want to say what we always say about a fighter. This is really going to hurt their stock or anything else. I really wanted to see Megan win 2 back-to-back, especially after the Cat Zingano, because I wanted to see her skill, and the thing is now, who the fuck does she fight? What does Megan do from here?
Yeah.
Because now we got a new name, Felicia Spencer, which is in a weight class that I don't know if she can cut to bantam. Probably be a pretty fucking tough cut for her. But as we all know, there's not a ton of featherweights. I don't think it's the best move to go and say, go fight Cyborg, you beat Megan Anderson. That makes zero sense to me.
That's tough.
And I'm not in the position, Sean Shelby or Dana, to do that, but at the same time, I don't think that's good to get somebody well momentum in that division when it's already that small.
It's a tough to make her next fight because you feel like this is her first fight in the UFC. She probably needs a few more before she's fighting Amanda Nunes, Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm.
Everybody above her are
but there's no options.
No, that's my point, is everybody is a champion or an ex-champion, and then they're all killers. And by the way, you fought an Invicta, which is the sister company of UFC, which is the farming, basically, for them. So it's not like you have a ton of experience. Now, granted, Felicia just came in and absolutely made Megan Anderson look like it was her debut, but it could have went the other way.
When they started grappling, it was really one-sided.
So I was very impressed with Spencer. I just do not want to see someone get thrown to the wolves because Megan kind of had that happen. And then she had the
what happened.
And she had the Kat Zingano fight, which was perfect. And unfortunately, it got ended by an eye poke into the back of her head by her toe. And we didn't get to see the caliber of Megan, and we didn't get to see what Kat Zingano could do. And I mean, it's just, that is a tough division to be in. And we need some big girls to come out of other promotions or other organizations and get in there just to give us something new.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with that featherweight division. I hope they grow it. And I mean, it seems to be that, I mean, those are the biggest girls. They're kind of fun to watch.
If the flyweight division keeps doing what it's doing in the men's and diminishes, maybe some more focus can be put into featherweight as far as recruiting, endorsements, promotion in general, to say, let's try to build this division up. It's not easy to find women that big at that caliber and that good a skill level, but they have to be out there because Spencer just came out of Invicta out of nowhere and did this. So if we're going to lose one thing, let's gain another.
So Vicente Luque was supposed to fight Neil Magny, who dropped out because of the USADA test.
Yep.
Derek Krantz stepped in. He is a champion of, I'm not sure what organization, but this is his first fight in the UFC. He steps into this fight. Round one, start. Boom! Hits Vicente Luque in the head, drops him.
Very worried.
I'm like, what is going on? Luque makes the comeback, gets to his feet, ends up with a first round finish by TKO. Had him. I mean, it got to the point where Krantz was about out on his feet. He was complaining about the stoppage too, but it was a good stoppage.
He was queer street.
It was a fun fight to watch. I'm glad it went down like it did. I don't think it was because Vicente Luque was underestimating his opponent. It was just
he cracked him with a good shot.
Yeah, started strong and hit on target for that first shot.
Barberina fight before this. Barberina took a ton of damage and a ton of shots from Vicente, but he did not throw the same back. Vicente is used to taking a shot. He's just way more tactical when it comes to it. And I think that's what happened. He got up and said, okay, you like the throw?
He almost got him choked out after he went down. I thought man. He dropped him, got on top of him on the ground, had his back, almost had a choke in, and I was like, man, if Luque loses this...
You're going to lose a lot of hope in the UFC because that's your buddy. Man. That's your buddy,
I like watching him fight. I'd love to see him move up the division and fight top-ranked welterweights. I think he deserves it. He was going to fight Neil Magny, didn't get that fight. This doesn't really advance him much, but it is.
What sucks. And that's 5 fights.
I think it's a good showing for him
UFC
because the way it started. Because of the way, I mean, dude hit him well. He fought through adversity, out of the submission attempt, still got a first round finish. So it doesn't hurt him at all.
4 TKOs in the last 4 out of his 5 fights that are 5 in a row winning streaks in the welterweight. Name anybody else that's doing that right now. Consistently. This guy...
Ponzinibbio's got some decisions in there.
Okay, Ponzinibbio has not been this active. That's what I love to see is a guy coming in
going after it.
that came out of nowhere and now is right on the cusp of one at 15. And that's what I love about it is his next fight. And I want to ask you, who do you want to see him fight next?
Oh gosh, anyone. I'd like to see the Magny fight. I'd love to see the Ponzinibbio fight. Leon Edwards is right there. He's on a big winning streak. I know he's talking about fighting guys higher up, but
I love that you said that because I had 2 names down, and I wanted to see if you like this. I got Leon Edwards because we all know Leon just does not promote himself, and I think Leon thinks he's better than he is because of that. And here's mine.
Yeah.
Kevin Lee. I want to do what I always joke about. Let's throw you to the wolves. You had RDA, you had a monster chance. You went to welterweight, and you went to deal with that. And now you had a guy that is now basically waiting for a title shot. It didn't happen for you. That's okay. This is a new weight division. Let's get a guy that just got in and has been making damage out the ass. And you fuck up here, bye-bye.
Got you one better.
What you got?
I already talked about this fight on the Liver Shot podcast where we're going through the welterweight division and we asked what fights we wanted to see made.
Yep.
One of the fights I wanted to see made was Robbie Lawler and Vicente.
Woo! Oh my God!
Robbie Lawler's fight just fell through. Not saying that they'd rebook it for that June 8th date, but down
the road,
training. He was ready to go. This is a 1-round fight for Luque. That's a fight I've already said I would love to see. I'm
not mad at it.
That is fireworks.
Yeah, and then the thing about it is Robbie wants to get as many fights in as he can and try to win them all so he can go right back to the top. Robbie wants the belt. Robbie's not here to look good on the weekends.
I guess if you give me any fight in the welterweight division, that's for Luque, that's the one I'm picking.
I like that. I don't know. I just want to see Kevin Lee get knocked the fuck out and get out of the division and go back to lightweight. No, I get it. No, that's a great call on that. I like that a lot.
Charles Oliveira, great showing against Nick Lentz. Just became, I think he's now the record holder for the most finishes.
Yeah. So I did a little research on that. I know we were going back and forth on that. So with Charles Oliveira on that, so as far as performances of the night, only giving performances of the night, he has now set the record for the most of that strictly for those, which he has 8. So that's not including fight nights or anything else, which is unreal. He also now has most submissions in the UFC.
Ahead of Demian Maia.
Which is insane at 13. And then he's tied with, just 2 guys that are decent in the MMA community, Vitor Belfort and Anderson Silva, for the second most finishes in UFC history at 14. And
that's behind Cerrone, I'm assuming?
That is behind Cerrone.
Okay.
And the other thing that was terrific that you picked up on that a lot of people don't realize, the last 5 fights for Oliveira have happened since July 9th in 2018 to May 2019. He's had 5 fights in between there.
And his last 6 wins have all been stoppage wins.
And
he's on a tear. It's just the lightweight division has so much going on. He needs to get a highly ranked opponent next. I don't know who it is.
That's exactly what he needs, is somebody to show the absolute strength and overall...
Edson Barbosa. That's who it is.
Wow. Well, I'll make you even happier. I'll reverse the whole train on you on here. He fights Gregory Gillespie.
I'd love to see that fight.
Because Greg has had some time off, and he always likes to take time off, and I love it. He wants to be with family, he loves to fish. I'm all about that. Charles, like we said, has been around for a long time. He's setting records and shit. Let's go against a guy that's trying to climb up the ranks and just start ripping through. There's your cutoff. Because right now, Paul Felder's not fighting anybody, especially after what he just went through with the James Vick. I mean, he's been commentating. He probably wants to get healthy. And Paul's very smart. He wants to have a fight that makes sense. He's already fought Charles previous, TKO'd him with the elbows, and that was a while back. So might as well fight a guy that's very active, very well known. And Greg wins a fight like that. That looks awesome. You just beat a guy that just set 3 fucking records in the UFC and tied on one of them. Shit. Against champions?
Yeah, I mean, he's been an active fighter. He didn't take a lot of damage there. That was a first-round finish.
He's 29.
Yeah. A lot of fights for being that young.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's been racking up wins. and needs a top opponent. I mean, I'm looking ahead of him. Kevin Lee, Anthony Pettis, maybe moving up to welterweight permanently. Other than that, you got some active fighters and Conor McGregor. Finally, we're going to see Khabib and Tony again, hopefully.
Yeah,
I think Edson Barbosa is a fantastic fight, too.
The thing about it is, after the knockout against Gaethje, how much time is Barbosa going to take off?
Yeah, he was talking about taking off
and rightfully
time.
so.
He just had a daughter the next day.
He takes 6 months off. That's kind of short to me for having your daughter the next day after getting knocked the fuck out.
So.
Yeah. So that was really cool to see for Oliveira. I mean, that's a staple in the sport, and also, I mean, that's mountains that he climbed.
A couple other fights I want to mention real quick.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the Capoeira Wonder. Aspen Ladd had a decision victory over Sijara Eubanks. That was a good victory. I think that was fight of the night for that card.
Tough fight.
They were both throwing leather at the end of the fight. Yeah, tough fight on both of them. Aspen Ladd now is top contender in the bantamweight division. Desmond Green got a hometown win. Grant Dawson in his first fight in the UFC hit Mike Trezano his first loss as a professional. Like we said, it started out with a bunch of finishes. Julio Arce finished Julian Erosa with a leg kick.
Oh my god!
Or head kick. Sorry,
that head kick was nasty.
Zach Cummings defeated Trevin Giles by submission in the third round when he was losing, and then Ed Herman beat Patrick Cummins with a first round TKO.
Said all he wanted to do was be put in the video game.
Yeah, how great is that?
That is the best thing ever.
So his kid can play as him.
Yeah, that's all. I've
been in the UFC for 13 years. I can't get in the video game.
Don't quote me on it, but I believe technically right now he has been in the UFC since 2006, and he is the longest tenured staying in the UFC, and that's unreal.
Yeah,
and you go against a guy like Patrick Cummings.
He should be in the video game.
With that, dude, you know who Patrick Cummings looks like? He looks like Hardy in that film Bronson when he's the guy in the prison with the mustache.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he looks like. He looks exactly like him. And the thing is, congratulations to Ed. Humble as shit. That fight could have went either way.
It could have went either way. These were all fun fights to watch. All three of these fights to begin.
The other Cummings fight, the amount of leather traded from both of those guys and the head kicks, and I loved when he just woo when the crowd was getting into it. He's like, yeah, I'll join in. I know we're not active right now. And I mean, that's
the nature boy.
We say it all the time, man, is when these prelims pop off and get active, whether it's a TKO sub or just a brawl, it sets the tone for the rest of the card. I'm telling you.
Honestly, the prelims were a better watch than the main card.
They did, but it also set up a very nice main card also.
Oh, yeah, the main card was not weak, but the prelims
but I agree,
were outstanding.
Yeah, which I love.
Any of those fights I just talked about, you got anything else on?
No, that covers it, man. I mean, Aspen Ladd, congratulations, continuing to rip through that division. That girl's definitely going to be one fight away from a title fight here soon.
She had a fight with Holly Holm that fell through.
The weight cut
we'll
situation.
See how this fight with Amanda Nunes goes, but I would think that's a good fight to make coming, as your next fight.
And we talked about RDA. I got greedy with him going to lightweight, but, welterweight, bide your time, wait to get the title.
So here it is. Michel Pereira. Holy Toledo, man. This guy was flying all over the place.
And by the way, he was crying walking out to get oiled up with the Vaseline. He was crying from the overall overwhelmness of just being there
in the UFC.
And saying, and everyone said it. Paul Felder said, he goes, this guy's either going to get knocked the fuck out or he's going to knock somebody the fuck out without saying fuck. And guess what? It happened.
He gets into the ring. Before the fight starts, he's got a 30-second breakdance routine. I'm like, man, this guy's going to gas himself out.
How many Showtime Pettis jumps off the fence did he do? 3?
2.
Did you 2?
Two off the cage. He had several flying knee attempts. He spent more time in the air than he did on the ground.
You're exactly right.
And it was, you could see Danny Roberts, who's a seasoned fighter.
Very seasoned.
Was instantly overwhelmed. He did not know what was going on. Finally got caught with a knee. Was dazed. Michel Pereira took one right hand right to his, sat down landed after the knee, gathered himself. He's like, all right, threw the right hand, dropped him. I think I heard in an interview with Helwani that he was going to flip on top of him after he knocked him out.
Oh, he get disqualified?
Yeah. And the referee came in and grabbed him. But that fight didn't last long. Every second of it, I was thoroughly entertained, and I just wanted to know what he was going to do next.
Capoeira, man, you're all about it. And, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Oh, it's so fun to watch.
And have you seen his record? The guy's been knocked out. He's had a lot of losses in smaller promotions.
He's had a shit ton of fights. He's only 25 or something like that.
He's had a shit ton of fights, but that's all he wants to do is fight. And what better than we could see than that?
Oh, my goodness, man. I sign him up, put him up against Eliza Dos Santos. That's what I want to see. Two capoeira fighters flipping at each other.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. You keep throwing guys like that in those divisions where it's that thick. What else do you want? There's not going to be a boring fight with guys like this.
I think he might move up to middleweight. I heard he was that night of the fight, he fought at 198, weighed in at 170 the day before.
Oh, my God.
That is a hell of a weight cut. So, I mean,
what they said.
He looked considerably bigger than Danny Roberts.
Huge.
Considerably bigger. So I could see him moving up to middleweight. A lot of guys do that to get their foot in the door in the UFC. They'll cut an insane amount of weight and fight a weight class below where they usually do. That's a tough cut to make
for a long time.
But if he continues to be active, man, like we said, he's young, but he's got a lot of fights. And this guy stole the show. I mean, there was not a more exciting story coming out of this to me than, holy shit, look at this dude who's flying around throwing knees and elbows.
No.
So that was the Rochester card, strong card.
Yeah, terrific card.
Surprising because actually there was several fighters, I don't know about surprising, but several fighters on this card made their UFC debuts. We talk about Grant Dawson, Michelle Pereira.
Which can go either way.
Felicia Spencer. A lot of them turned out good. A lot of them turned out to be wins. All of them turned out to be good. Entertaining card. So yeah, kudos. It was not a pay-per-view event, but they had some hometown people, some new guys, and it ended up being a fantastic card.
Nice.
Let's talk about some fights that were recently announced. We alluded to this one already. Oh yeah,
Jesus.
There was maybe like a 48-hour period while they had an event going on, and they were just riding off monster fights. The first one I want to talk about, because we've already alluded to it, is Donald Cerrone and Tony Ferguson. This fight got added to the UFC 238 card, which is June 8th, it seemed a little bit early for both these guys, to be honest. The other thing was that card's already stacked. This would be a great co-main event for the 241 card, or 240 card, or the end of July card that now Max Holloway's headlining. I thought that would make more sense, but this just makes 238 even better. This is a monster card, and this is a monster fight.
Yeah. And I think the thing that blows my mind is you just had Tony Ferguson that basically had a meltdown in life.
It seemed like a mental break.
And I can understand with these guys what they go through. And then you have Cerrone that just come off a 5-round decision, pretty tough fight against Alaquinta to win. To turn around and fight that quick, I don't think anyone's at an advantage or a disadvantage. I just think Cerrone took actual bodily damage, and Tony Ferguson has been taking mental damage after coming off of already the knee issue that he had before. So in that situation, I hope everything falls in line. I just worry about, was this a little too early?
It seemed like it was rushed. That's the point I was getting to with 238 being such a strong card already. Did it need to be rushed? Couldn't we find some spot later in the year to put this on a huge card or main event card?
A 240 would be
Because this could be a perfect main event for a non-pay-per-view too.
Well, and that's the other problem though, is you put them on 240, you got Max and Frankie.
Right. This would not be a headline for a pay-per-view.
Yeah, you can't.
They'll have a champion, but this is going to be a co-main event. I guess it might be a co-main event 238 either way. But I'd have to imagine that this 238 card is already stronger than the 248 is going to be. So that was the only surprising thing about it for me. I am super excited about this fight. Like I said, there was those 4 guys in that division. Cerrone, Ferguson, Gaethje, and Conor McGregor. You put any 2 of them against each other, that's the fight I want to see. And I said, put it as soon as you can, and they did.
Just put it in, yeah.
They did. So that's going to be a fantastic
that card
fight.
is insane.
I think Ferguson opens up as a favorite. Yeah. Oh, the card is strong.
Yeah, I mean, you're going with Henderson Cejudo and Marvin Relias for the belt, then Valentina Shevchenko going against Jessica.
So 2 belts on the line to start.
2 belts on the line, and then by the way, everyone following with is big names. You got Peter Yan coming up that's fighting Jimmy Rivera that we talked about. I mean, I don't know what else you could jam into this card. And then we talked about earlier, Tatiana versus Nina Ostroff. That is the next woman.
Pedro Munoz and Aljamain Sterling's on that card.
Yeah, and
Tatiana
and the craziest part is Aljamain and Pedro are on the fucking prelims.
Is that the headline for the prelims?
No.
They're not even the headline for the prelims.
That's what I'm saying. Man. Is this card is jacked packed.
Yeah. That's why I felt like it didn't need to be on this card. I'm so excited the fight's made.
Maybe at least wait to 239, but at the end of the day, there's been so many guys lined up.
239 is already a huge card too. That's why I thought 240 was the one for this.
Jam into
it seemed like the appropriate card for this fight, but this is going to be a fantastic fight.
Jeez.
A fight that did get added to 239 is Gilbert Melendez and Arnold Allen. Gilbert Melendez making his comeback. He has not fought since late 2017. I kind of didn't think he was going to fight again. I'm glad that he is. He's not been very active lately. His last win, I think, was in 2014 against Diego Sanchez. Arnold Allen just fought. I think he was on that London card.
Yes, he was, and he won that by decision.
He looked good in that fight. It was a convincing decision.
He's been looking good. Here's what I have to pull back and think of with Gilbert. So Gilbert coming over from WEC and doing a lot of big things there, like a lot of guys did, like Cerrone, Alvarez, all of those. His last 4 losses were to Stevens, Barboza, Alvarez, and Pettis.
Yeah.
Those are not walks in the park. So him beating Diego Sanchez in 2014 meant that he fought in 15, 16, 17, and 18.
No, he's not fought in 18. He's not fought
in 17.
Yeah.
That are all guys that at one point were top 10 guys doing big things and are still doing big things.
Yeah,
I mean,
most
Pettis,
of them are.
Yeah, and Alvarez is gone. So I have
to... former champion. I mean,
I have to pull back and go, yeah, he's might not fought often, but the quality of what he has been very good.
And they're all training. I mean, Nate Diaz has been in camps.
That whole group.
That whole crew is ready to go at any time. I honestly didn't think we were going to see him again. I'm glad we are. And I think 239 card is a fine card for it. It's going to be further down in the card, part of the prelims, but
any John Jones card is already a focus on Jones only.
Good to see both these guys fighting again. Regarding that 239 card, Junior Dos Santos and Francis Ngannou are no longer on it.
Yeah.
Because Tyron Woodley had to drop out of his fight against Robbie Lawler. I believe that's a week ahead. So that'll be June 29th. There hasn't been a replacement opponent for Robbie Lawler announced. I don't know if he'd take a short order opponent.
I wouldn't if I were him.
Probably just try and schedule a fight soon. Hopefully it's Vicente Luque.
That would be unreal. I like that a lot.
But Junior Dos Santos and Francis Ngannou have been moved from the 239 fight week card to the main event of that Minneapolis card. We talked about Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar. That was announced. That will be the next featherweight championship fight, and that's going to headline the UFC 240 card in Edmonton at the end of July.
To me, these next 2 months, every fighter I want to see is fighting. And every fighter that has been doing well is fighting right behind them. So, I mean, all of these cards on paper look terrific. I just hope that shows up.
Mm-hmm. 2 more fights that were on that 240 card just recently announced. Davison Figueiredo and Alexander Pantoja are fighting. This is, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier. Yeah. The flyweight division is who knows what, but these are the top 2 contenders who are not in the top contender fight fighting. So hopefully the flyweight division sticks around. We've also got Alexis Davis and Vivian Arujau on that 240 card. Vivian is coming off of a surprise victory She filled in on short notice on that Brazil card and got a win. So she's making a quick return to fight Alexis Davis. Moving on to the ESPN 4 card. We've got a couple big heavyweights that were announced for that. Alexei Oleinik and Walt Harris are going to fight. They were scheduled to fight previously, but Oleinik had to drop out of that fight in order to replace Alex Volkov against Alistair Overeem. So he's not going to be suspended as long as we thought he would, medical suspension-wise. And Walt Harris has made his return, so I'm glad that they ended up making this fight work out. I thought that fight made sense when it was made the first time.
Do you really, though? That's not something I wanted to talk about, is I don't like that fight for Oleinik. And here's my reason why. Walt Harris had his 4 months off for, obviously, the USADA stuff. Came back fantastic in his last fight. Oleinik just fought basically a older Walt Harris fighting Overeem. I think that is a terrible matchup for him. Now, granted, I'm not these guys fighting and I'm not in the career of their area, but I do not know if that is the best fight to make Oleinik look good in that sport. Because if he loses that, I think he gets lost.
Are you trying to make Oleinik look good?
I'm trying to look good. I'm trying to help Oleinik out because I think he was a lost name that came around and all of a sudden said, I'm a heavyweight that is submitting guys. That is not a common thing. He goes and fights someone like Overeem, who is a Grand Prix champion, a guy that has multiple marks on his belt of fantastic achievements, and then all of a sudden is finished the way he was with the knees and everything, and then jumps right back into a fight that Walt Harris just finished his last opponent in under 2 minutes. I don't know if that is the best choice to make right now with a guy that has the momentum of Walt Harris. Because I've said it for a while, I think Walt Harris is going to do some serious damage in this fucking division. And I think also with what he did to Willis, to take on a guy like Willis that, okay, he's not a cardio guy, not a wrestling guy, or I'm sorry, not Willis, with his last fight, when Walt came in and beat Sergio, that's not a Spivak. That's not an easy fight at all. And I think this is really going to hurt Oleinik if he gets knocked out. I don't think he's going to get any good fights. Personally.
He's old. I am excited about this fight.
Are you?
I think
okay, well that's good. Sense. I'm glad we got something different. I like it.
I think it makes sense for both of them because I think Walt Harris has a chance to beat a top 10 heavyweight and really come back. I mean, he had that little suspension setback. He looked great in his last fight. If he comes in and beats Oleinik, then he's going to be a top 10 heavyweight. And now the door's open to the top of the division, and you name it. If Alexei Oleinik wins this fight, then that's fantastic for him. He lost to Alistair Overeem. Oh, tough shit, man. That's Alistair Overeem.
I understand that, but this is not the Alistair Overeem 5 years ago.
Oh man, I
don't want to play that card, but
he's not the Alistair Overeem from 10 years ago.
Okay, that's fine. Now, what if Oleinik won that fight?
The Overeem fight?
How much do you think people would be like, oh, that's a tremendous win?
I think everyone would be like, that's a tremendous win. Because that's Alistair Overeem.
I have a ton of respect for Overeem. I think he's phenomenal. I just do not think in that division right now, when you had Oleinik beating a Mark Hunt, who's had his brains beat in and has been in a ton of absolute battles in his life, and then Albini earlier, who was new to the division, and then prior to that lost to Curtis Blades, I don't know if his background of winning, and I get it in the heavyweight division. You can't win 5 in a fucking row. That's not very common. I just think Walt Harris is going to come in, take his head off, and get easy money. And Walt Harris is going to jump up and be a top 10 guy real quick when Oleinik could have maybe taken a fight that was a little closer to his caliber. He's fighting a guy that was on suspension, that is 15, that had a no contest against Andrei Arlovski, and then beat Spivak very well. And now you're going to let him just come right in the lion's den and take your head off, allegedly. And then once he does that, he's going to leapfrog a ton of fucking people and probably end up fighting Derek Lewis by the time Derek Lewis gets healthy. That's probably the timeline that's going to happen. I'm just speaking from, I like Oleinik a lot. I just don't know if that was a good fight for him to sign. But I'm not involved in that.
I see benefits for both fighters. I really do. And if...
Well, I'll be interested to see. We might have to put a side bet on it.
Well, I don't
have to get another side bet.
I don't have a pick.
I'm giving you a hard time.
I think it's there's wins on both sides if they come out with this, and then I don't have a problem with Alexio. I mean, he said at this point in his career, he wants to be. It's about the people he fights. It doesn't matter. It's not the circumstances that they're asking him if he wanted to fight in Russia more often.
He wants the name,
but he doesn't care about fighting Russia. He wants to have the legendary
and that's very
fighters
honorable.
That like, man, I fought Alistair Overeem.
That's very honorable.
And if he thinks Walt Harris is going to be one of those guys, then
so be it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think he's picking his fights the way he wants them. So I think if he didn't have a problem with it, I don't.
Perfect.
Let's get on to UFC 241.
Sure.
Couple fights that were announced for that. Let's go with 3 fights that were announced for that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Rafael Assunção, Corey Sandhagen, Paulo Costa, Yoel Romero, Anthony Pettis, Nate Diaz.
They all sound like terrible fights.
I don't want to watch them. This is going to be a big card. This is the one that's headlined by DC Stipe 2. Anthony Pettis, Nate Diaz is going to be the co-main. Diaz hasn't fought in 3 years. Pettis is coming off of that knockout of Wonderboy. This fight's going to be at welterweight. Apparently there's bad blood between these guys.
Didn't know that. Really didn't think. I did not realize that it kept on that long, but I'm happy it did because you know me, just like the Usman Colby,
Add something to it.
I love to see the animosity because it adds so much more to it. I love the weigh-ins. I love when people get in each other's faces and just add a little character.
Yeah, so that fight's going to be fantastic. I can't wait for this card now. I thought it was going to be a strong headline, but I mean, you never know with heavyweights and then a weaker card. But this is shaping up to be a great card. We got Paulo Costa, Yoel Romero for the 3rd time.
Jeez. Please let this happen.
We still haven't heard anything about Costa's suspension from USADA, but they're talking about fights with him, so hopefully we hear something soon. Yoel Romero had to drop out of his last fight. Now they're coming together again. This is a fight we've talked about how we wanted to see. Hopefully we do get to see it this time.
This is probably one of those fights that if it happens, it'll probably never happen again.
No, I would say if it doesn't happen this time, it's never going to happen.
Well, that's what I worry about is if it doesn't happen, I'll never be able to talk about it again because I never thought it would happen 3 times. But
let's do that. If it doesn't happen this time, we're never talking about
Perfect.
it. Even if it does happen, we're not going to talk about it.
I can deal with that.
And then Rafael Assunção and Corey Sandhagen. So this is big for the bantamweight division. Rafael Assunção is coming off of, he was the #1 contender and lost. Yeah. Corey Sandhagen just had a big victory over John Lineker. So this is an opportunity for both of those guys to get up. For one, Rafael Assunção back up to the very top, and for Corey to get up to the very top for the first time. So all of those fights were just announced recently. All exciting fights.
Yeah.
One fight that went down this past weekend that we didn't talk about on our recaps was Sage Northcutt's debut in one.
Yeah, my goodness.
Only 30 seconds into the fight, he was knocked out by Cosmo Alexander, and he broke his face. He underwent
I think he did more than that.
9-hour surgery. I heard they pulled 30 pieces of bone fragments out of his face. And this is some guy that the UFC was putting money behind to promote. He was on commercials. He's a young guy, shredded up. It's funny how happy he is all the time. He's got I don't know what kind of personality, how to describe the personality, but very religious, very happy, always positive.
Yep. And
this was his debut in his new promotion, and it did not go well.
Faber from Alpha Male even said it. He goes, we knew this was a dangerous guy. He goes, this was a 7-time Muay Thai champion. Obviously has all the credentials to do what he's been already doing in one, and they were honored to have the fight. It is scary for a fan like me to see. I've seen that punch, I couldn't tell you how many times. And I couldn't tell you how many times those guys have taken those punches And to see that happened to Sage Northcutt is just mind-boggling. To have your face basically imploded and then everything inside of it is shattered, and then you have to know. I mean, he stood there after the fight. Yeah, he was laughing.
What the hell does that feel like?
He had his face right here swollen up. It looked like a normal fighter, and then all of a sudden emergency surgery because probably a doctor out back said, hey, man, you got something really bad going on.
Your cheek moves in when I push on it.
Yeah, and I mean, Sage Northcutt, he came from looking for a fight, Dana White's, going around show.
Yeah, they pushed him too fast.
And they pushed him too fast.
He was shredded. He was doing flips and stuff. Kind of how I feel like Pereira could be. But then they put him in top competition. They ate him up.
They did him dirty a lot. I think they put him in top competition because they thought that automatically because you look like that, act like that, and you fought like this, you're going to do that and you're going to sell fights. And then when you didn't, see ya. I tell you one thing is I'd love to see how he's going to come back from this. Because not only road to recovery is mentality. You went from taking punches all the time and training all the time and working with some of the best guys in the world to one punch shattered your face in. How do you react from that? So I hope all healing goes great. I think Sage is a great person.
He was in school too. I mean, he was they had to
nuts.
Coach him to leave school to be a professional fighter. I mean, he's got other things he can do. He doesn't have to do this.
Oh, he's a smart guy. Yeah. This is not his only career.
It's unfortunate to see that go down, but brutal stuff. And then two fights I do want to talk about real quick.
Sure.
Outside of MMA. I thought it was interesting. Anthony Pettis and Jorge Masvidal are going to have a jiu-jitsu match in the middle of, I'm not sure what weekend, but it's mid-June. And these were two fighters who came off back-to-back cards. One knocking out Wonder Boy, the other knocking out Till. And we were talking about how great of a matchup would be to have them together in an MMA fight.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're going to be fighting each other in a jiu-jitsu fight, and I'm hoping that it's going to lead to an MMA fight. Yeah.
And we talked about this before with, obviously, the Masvidal fight coming up with Ben Askren. What Ben Askren did with Jordan Burroughs, which, by the way, Jordan Burroughs... Good God, made Askren look like a child.
What's wrong with him?
And the thing is, they were both great about it. I love the competition. Like I said, my only thing...
It was for charity.
It was charity. Yeah. It's great. I worried because of accidental injuries, and I don't really worry about accidental injuries with Pettis and Masvidal because they are such professionals, but I agree with you. I hope this is a foreshadowing because I'm telling you right now, the way Pettis is going and the way Masvidal's going... Yikes.
The way they fight, I mean, it's going to be it's going to be an entertaining fight.
I will pay $60 for that fight and not be mad about it because just like the Till fight, I go, there ain't no way in hell Masvidal's getting out of this. And sure as shit, that night I'm jumping up and down going, fucking Masvidal 3-piece. It was later. And I became a fanboy. But no, I think that's really interesting that I don't think a lot of people know that. I don't think a lot of people know that's happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of grappling matches that happen behind the scenes that you don't hear much about.
Conor used to do it all the time. Yeah. But this one just particular is perfect.
I just thought that we had very recently talked about how we thought wouldn't that be an interesting matchup? They just came off of those two knockout wins back-to-back cards as big underdogs.
Oh, very big underdogs.
But so I would love to see this transform into an MMA fight. The other one is the Artem Lobov, Paulie Malignaggi bare knuckle boxing match. This is going to happen June 22nd. I don't know. I'm worried.
Well, I'll I'll say one thing.
There's legitimate bad blood, man. Now, these dudes hate each other.
Paulie is not handling himself the way that I think
he looks like a scumbag.
Well, one, he speaks very well on the boxing. I think he's a terrific announcer from being a terrific ex-boxer.
He's a world champion boxer.
Well, what I mean is boxing is tough for a lot of people to follow because there's been so many terrific boxers, and people get lost in the transition unless you know Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali. Paulie I knew about when I got into the MMA just from he was active when I was at that age. The stuff with Conor when he was training and he was supposed to be training for Floyd to get inside. Paulie's always been a pretty class act as far as when it comes to fights. And I think this fight that he's taken a little too far, and I think he's kind of got a little too over-aggressive with it. And I'll be honest with you, after what Artem did to fucking Jason Knight, who could give a shit if his face was beat in the back of his head and his nose came out of the back of his neck, I think he's going to do more damage to Paulie. But all have to remember, Paulie is a professional boxer.
That's what I'm going to say.
And has no gloves on.
You're comparing Paulie Malignaggi to Jason Knight, and Jason Knight is a fun fight to watch.
No, he's a fun fight.
Paulie Malignaggi is a two-weight world champion.
I get that a lot. The thing that I have to pull back and realize is Artem, whether you look at his record or not, you look at his record and look at the guys that he's fought and lost to, and if he won 5 out of the 10 fights that he lost, right now he's got a damn good record, and he's got even more of the GOAT mentality that everybody joked about with. He has been fighting with MMA gloves for 12 years. Paulie has been fighting with boxing gloves for, let's say, 12 years. When you get clipped and you're not used to that padding, it's different. And by the way, Artem just got done doing a bare knuckle. Not saying that Jason's power is the same or speed or anything else. Your body is going to react different. I'm not taking away from Paulie. I think Paulie will probably piece him up. But that does not make me think that Artem, with this animosity and disrespect, being the Russian he is, he might go out there and try to kill him.
Yeah, Artem's got
dead fucking serious.
I really think that
this is so weird.
It is kind of weird.
It's so fucking weird.
It's kind of weird.
A guy that was released by the UFC, it went into a bare knuckle boxing tournament.
Is fighting an ex-world champion of boxing. An
ex-world champion who is retired and was helping Conor McGregor, his fucking partner at one time in boxing, and bamboozled him. And now, and allegedly, and now is spitting loogies at him in press conferences, grabbing and kicking him. This might be the first time we see someone die.
It won't be the first time, but...
No, first time I'll see someone die live. Apparently, by the way, side note, I don't know if you know about this, this fight may not be true bare knuckle because the athletic commission for that state says that this is almost too violent. It's kind of a McCain situation. They may be doing some small wrapping.
Okay, that's what well, they're going to wrap them regardless.
They're not going to wrap just the wrist. They're going to wrap part of the knuckles because they're saying that pure knuckles.
They wrap them up to pass your first knuckles.
And don't quote me on this. I think they're going a little more greedy because they've been watching this promotion, which this promotion's been doing great.
I think it's irresponsible to license a world champion boxer to fight in a bare knuckle boxing. That's why I think this is a little weird.
The sheer fact that we're talking about this is
it's weird. A little weird. But I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to watch this fight. I'm going to look at the clips and the pictures afterwards.
100%. But I'm not paying for it.
Yeah. Before we go, let's preview the June 1st card.
Yes.
This is going to be a Saturday afternoon card. There's no fights this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, which typically there's a pretty big pay-per-view that weekend. Yeah. But this year, no fights. The next fights are going to be in Stockholm, Sweden on Saturday, June 1st. But like I said, it's going to be an afternoon card. Headliner, Alexander Gustafsson, Anthony Smith. Both of them coming off of losses to John Jones.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
Gustafsson said if he loses to Smith, he's probably done.
Maybe he doesn't have it anymore.
Smith said the only one he was willing to come back for this soon was Gustafsson.
It's perfect.
So let's see how it goes.
Well, let's talk about it while we're here. Your prediction?
I think Alexander Gustafsson is going to win. I think he is I think there's serious levels to the light heavyweight division right now. I think like the middleweight division we were talking about earlier, it's kind of sparse. And I think Alexander Gustafsson is on the level right below John Jones. I don't know that Anthony Smith is on that level. He certainly lasted longer than Gustafsson did, but I'm not sure that he will. It's not going to be the same. Alex Gustafsson's not going to fight the same fight John Jones did against Smith. So I do think Alexander Gustafsson is going to win. I think it could go the distance.
Yeah, and everybody's forgotten that this is in the home, country of Sweden with Gustafsson, which could be similar to the Brazil situation. It could be a lot of pressure, especially after what Gustafsson just said. You got Gustafsson going to decision. I got Anthony going to decision because I do not think that this will be a knockout fight. I think the resilience that I saw Gustafsson have in the first fight with Jones and similar to what Anthony just did with Jones here recently, it's going to happen again. And it will be an absolute toss-up.
Yeah, they're same size. I'd imagine they're very similar reach. I would think Anthony Smith has a little bit more power. I think Gustafsson has a little bit of an edge. Most other places.
Experience.
At least experience at this high of a level.
Yes.
He's fought world champions for the last 8 years.
And Jones twice.
Yeah, I mean, he's been up at the very top of the UFC. So that's why I'm giving him the edge, really. Right now, he's a -300 favorite, which is a little bit more than I would say. So I don't know that I'd pick a bet on either of these fights. That's the headliner, but there are 3 light heavyweight fights that matter in this card, which adds a little bit more intrigue.
Should be very active.
The co-main is going to be Volkan Oezdemir and Ilir Latifi. Volkan Oezdemir is coming in at a slight favorite. This is going to be my bet for the week.
Oh, great.
I think Ilir Latifi is going to get the upset.
I like that bet. That's very
even
nice.
Money. That's the fight out of this card that I'm going to take.
That's very good. And both of us have Latifi. And, something that I always laugh about Brendan Schaub says when he's talked about, he goes, I fucking hate Latifi. You know why? Because he's always a problem. He's a short, powerful, stocky guy that you would think when a guy has 6 inches height advantage on him, that would be a problem. No. Look at what he did to OSP. Choked out OSP. OSP is not Volkan. I understand that. I think someone like Latifi is very tactical on the way he approaches, and he's so fucking strong that when he gets a hold of you, it's concerning. And look what you have. He's going to sub him.
That's what I think.
That's a very good
the vulnerable
prediction.
spot in Oezdemir's
I think
game.
that's a very good prediction.
The other thing is, Volkan, no time, Oezdemir could just get a hold of him one time with his fist, and
then
that's
it's a
all
different,
yeah. But I think at even money, Ilir Latifi to get the win here.
It's a fun fight regardless.
I think it's going to be. I like watching Volkan fight, except for that Cormier fight. That was pretty boring.
Yeah.
But that's just being outclassed.
Yeah, you'll have that.
The other light heavyweight fight on the card is Jimmy Manuwa and Alex Rakic. So Manuwa is coming in at a +170 underdog as the ranked fighter. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in him in this one.
I would have a whole lot more confidence in Manuwa if he was 36 instead of 39 in his last 4 fights. And I know the power is still there. I know the drive is still there. I think a younger fighter like Rakic is going to exploit it and just basically finish the fight in a division that is known to finish fights pretty early. I think that's going to happen.
Women's bantamweight fight, we got Tanya Ebinger and Lena Landsberg.
God, I hate this fight.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, Tanya was murdering Invicta and then came in and Aspen Ladd put her on her fucking ass. And she had the fight before with Home. Lena has not had the greatest record in that division either. I think that is going to be a very boring fight. I hope right now someone's listening to me, both of them, and they don't do that. But I think this is going to be a typical bantamweight division ender. You got Tanya, I got Lena. Either way, I might skip that fight. I hate to say it. And that's terrible, but I think that is a very boring fight that we're going to see.
And you want to tell us about this featherweight fight?
I am going to tell you about this featherweight fight. So I have liked, speaking of the featherweight, is Marcani Americana versus Chris Fishgold. Chris Fishgold is kind of coming to the scene here lately. And Marcani, I can always say Americana easier. I love Mr. Finland. I love the way that he opens up fights. He finished one of his best fights ever with an open flying knee and finished his opponent in 10 seconds in the UFC. I think this was his second fight in. I think the overall just ground game, experience, I think he is going to basically show that Chris Fishgold is not even close in that caliber. That is my bet in this fight. I'm going to pick him with a sub in the second, but I'm going to pick him regardless with a win, and that is my bet in this card.
Yeah, they are pick'em. They're both
and they
at
are a pick'em.
So this is a coin flip matchup. So yeah, those are our picks for this June 1st card. Those are the bets we're choosing to take, and we will see you to preview the next pay-per-view here coming up in a couple weeks.
See you.